Good morning. So, you've heard about experts, right? So, what the heck is an expert? And you've heard from some. How did they become one? Great question, right? Have you ever wondered this? I was listening to a so called expert and began reverse engineering this idea that they were an actual expert. And what I found out will make you wonder why they are, and maybe you are not, because you seem to know a lot about something, but you're not recognized as an expert, right? You've been dedicated to a topic for years, but no one knows. You read the articles, study the journals and white papers. I mean, you're a practitioner, seemingly easily working in this space, but not an expert. How is that? Let's talk about it in this video. Take a look. So first of all, our goal here is not to be a so-called expert, and it's certainly not to become narcissistic and start giving yourself a self-aggrandizing title. That's not the goal here. The goal is to become a resource, a trusted advisor, a guide in times of question, someone that is thought of with the word help in your particular space. Would you agree to that? Isn't that what you seek in your position as an expert? To be the sought after resource? I think that most listening to this do. So how do you get there? There are 4 steps. I broke these out of watching somebody. Simply put, these 4 steps, and you might be doing the first, but you're likely not doing the second, and certainly not the third, and maybe the fourth. Here they are. 1, listen to what is being said intently. Look for repetition of words that reflect emotion and words that reflect facts. Those are your gaps to fill. What are people's challenges in this space? Their opportunities. Look for those. Number 2, learn. Go find statistics that fill those gaps and stories of success and failure of doing so, where others have tried and failed or succeeded, and those that have not and floundered by not even trying. All 3 perspectives should be examined. Organize this information and be able to articulate it clearly. The third one, share. This is where most everyone drops the ball. No one shares the value they've accumulated, and most certainly no one does it very regularly, except for the experts. And then 4, this is important, love. You must love to study your topic. You might not like what it's about, but you must love to study it. It has to be your passion and your focus. Get great at one thing and do it over and over again. Shoot for a few years of doing it regularly and watch the transformation. Slow but progressive. All of this is where credibility comes from. Being a consistent, focused, knowledgeable resource and helping with great information. Now, I want to talk a little bit about something else that you do see here. And we hear about this a fair amount, and that's the 10,000 hour rule. When you break down 10,000 hours, supposedly that is kind of how you become an expert. It's been written about several times, putting in 10,000 hours to do something. So you think about this, 10,000 hours. So if you look at, let's say we're spending, call it 2,000 hours a year. So that's 5 years of consistent full-time work. And that's doing 40 hours a week, 20, 40 hours a week times 50 weeks, 2,000 hours, right? So how do we get to 10,000 hours other than doing 5 years? We focus on the specifics, but you learn faster when you share instead of learning faster when you keep. Because when we share, we learn it more. So think about this. Does it take 5 years for you to become an expert in something? No, it doesn't. It doesn't take 5 years. It takes intensity. It takes regular effort. I ask you, go back, and what do you think you're an expert in? Take a look at this and figure out, have you put forth that 10,000 hours worth of effort? Maybe not 10,000 hours itself, but 10,000 hours worth of effort. A good example of this is like let's call it a grad school program, okay? So you're looking at probably 2 years. 2 years full time. Let's say that you're putting in over the 2 years, because we just talked about it takes 5 years to put in 10,000 hours. So let's call it you're putting in call it 2,500 to 4,000 hours in a grad school program. But here's the big caveat. You're hyper focused on doing your very best in that because you're getting graded on it. You're getting reviewed on it. You're collaborating. You're reteaching that information. You're studying it every day. So when you go back to what James Clear talks about in creating habits, in Atomic Habits, a great book if you haven't read it. It's been out a couple of years. He doesn't talk about the amount of time you spend doing something. He talks about the number of repetitions you put in doing it. The number of repetitions you put in doing it. So how many repetitions are you putting in doing your craft? Mastering your craft, becoming an expert in your craft. And you'll know you've hit this level of becoming an expert when people start referring to you as an expert in this. Don't call yourself an expert, please. Please don't do that, okay? Everybody tries it, but the reality is become an authority. And that's how you become an expert. But you don't do it by hiding. You don't do it by hiding. You can become a scientist in your art, craft, science, whatever it might be, or an artist or whatever, and go lock yourself in a room and nobody knows what you're doing until you come out and you go, ta-da, I built this thing, or I created this idea, or I figured this out. People are like, oh, that's cool. But until they repetitiously see you practicing your craft and deploying the knowledge that you've learned in this, that's when you truly become an expert. So a good way to do that. Everybody's like, well, how do I become an expert? You just talked about all this expert stuff. How do I become an expert? You become an expert by going out and being vulnerable. Go be vulnerable. Go talk to people. Go share your ideas, share what you've learned, and you'll find out you don't know all of the things about it. It's okay to not know the answer. It's not okay to fake the answer. So go out and share it. A great way to do that. I talk about this all the time. People are like, oh, how do I do that? Oh, you're watching it right now on video, okay? So give me a like or a heart or thumbs up or wherever we're at on the social media platforms. This is on about 6 of them right now. And tell me, are you sharing your knowledge? Are you helping people by delivering value on a regular basis? If you are, if you can look back, go scroll through your past posts on social media, your past videos on YouTube. You do post stuff on YouTube, right? And look at the notes. Look at the notes wherever you keep notes. You do take notes, right? Because if we're just kind of like being this generalized wanderer through life, we're not taking notes, we're not journaling, we're not keeping track of what we're learning, how do we ever get really good at something? And maybe you don't want to be really good at something. Maybe you don't want to be an expert. That's cool too. I'm not judging. That's fine. I have a goal of getting really good at some certain things, one of which is helping people become better leaders. So I take my notes. I've got a whole ton of them. In fact, I mean, right over here on this side of the screen, there's a whole bunch of notes written out on different things. So take a look. What are you doing to practice your craft? What are you doing to become an expert? Repetition does create expertise, but with all these other aspects as well. Know the good parts, the bad parts. Don't make change because you're required to. Make change because you've studied it and you understand why change is being made and you want to go after it. So that's what I've got for you today. Go be an expert, but don't call yourself one. Be an authority, provide help, master your craft that way. Focus on that time and effort. Take that 5 years and shrink it down to 2 by being super hyper focused. In fact, we just spent what is it, 6 or 7 months, 8 maybe, in COVID. You could be like almost halfway there if you started studying then. But no time like the present. Let's start studying now. Love you guys. Thanks for all you do. Be safe, be well, be strong. Talk to you soon.